Their first series triumph in Australia since 1979. They beat the hosts 2016 in the deciding match in Sydney. That's the latest. I'm Kevin Gover.
Love Sport on 558 AM, online and on digital radio. The Love Sport Late Shift.
Well, here we go. It's the final hour of the final show with me, Phil Dobbie, here on Love Sport. I'm here till 1 o'clock, and then no more. You'll never hear from me again unless I suddenly pop up somewhere unexpectedly on another radio station, or maybe back here. And perhaps I will suddenly acquire some vast knowledge of sport that has been hidden, lurking somewhere in my mind, and I didn't even realise it myself, and I could talk like an expert on sporting issues. But I don't think that's going to happen because I know nothing about sport, which is probably why I'm not on this radio station after 1 o'clock this morning. But for the next hour, we are going to talk about the United States, and we're going to talk about Australia. Look, I mentioned before in Algeria, they've got a big problem with people cheating in exams, so they turned off the internet when the exams are on, so that nobody could be surfing the internet and cheating in their exams. And this is going to go on right through to the 25th of June because there are so many people cheating. I mean, they're going to have to go back to the old style of cheating. You know, when you used to write notes on your arm or on your hand, and or sticky bits of paper that you attached to your sleeve. There's, you know, all sorts of inventive ways. If we're a radio station where people called up, I mean, we could devote the hour to, because this is gold for talkback radio. How do you think, you know, not admitting that you ever cheated in exams, but if you were, you know, what is the most inventive way of cheating in an exam? Writing, what's that? What's yours? On the top of your leg. Yeah, well, girls can get away with that because they can wear skirts. For a bloke, that's harder because you have to take your trousers off. That would be a bit obvious. On your fingers, yeah, that's another way. There's lots of ways, aren't there? But I don't know, just why would people do it? I never understood why you'd have to write stuff on bits of paper if you had so much, because you can only get so much on a bit of paper. If there's so little room left in your brain that you couldn't actually remember the stuff that you're writing on that paper, then you've really surely got a problem. But cheating in exams. What are the best ways, apart from the ways we've already discussed of cheating in exams? If you do feel like calling, it's midnight. 0208 7020 558. Because in Algeria they've had to turn the internet off because people were cheating by looking online. There's some things that you don't need to cheat at. Like if you're doing a degree in economics, for example, because there are no right answers in economics. You can say anything at all because economists don't agree with each other on anything at all. So any answer is the right answer, I reckon, in economics. So look, I've learned this because another thing I do every day, actually, is an economics podcast for a bank in Australia. And I quiz their economists about what's going on in the economy. And occasionally I have to say something that's to sound like I'm intelligent and I know what I'm talking about. But I learned fairly quickly. In economics, you can say anything at all, and you're never wrong. Because economists will never agree on anything. So any theory will do in the world of economics. So if you're doing an economics degree, I don't think there's any wrong answers. I don't think you can be marked down. There's people who do communication studies. I don't... did you do a communications... You didn't do it at college? No? So there, I've got an unqualified producer. But it makes no difference because I don't know what you do when you study communication studies. People do media studies as well. I mean, what do you do? What a waste of time that is. I don't know how long I've worked in communications and in the media, but I mean, it's a complete waste of time anyway, because I do know you do stuff like, studying ethics, and then you discover after all of that media ethics, you discover actually the only jobs that are available are working at The Sun or working at the Daily Mail. And you have to, working for Kelvin Mackenzie, it's my last hour, and you realise you just throw all those ethics out the window for the sake of a job. So what do you do with a communications degree? Please tell me. I have worked in communications all my life. Somehow I got by with a geography degree, which is no bloody use to anyone whatsoever. But I managed to get by without these qualifications. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. What do you study if you're doing a communications degree? And I found some sample questions on the internet for a PhD in communications. These are some of the questions. Question 1, they're multiple choice. The possible harmful effects of mediated communications always leads to A, production glut, B, ad attention, C, economic concerns, or D, moral panic. I have no idea what that's about. The media audience are capable of passive notion, negative acceptance, inadvertence, or critical distance. I'm the broadcaster here. We are the media. There's these people studying it and getting asked these questions. You call up and tell me, are you capable? You're the listener. You're the media audience. Are you capable of passive notion, negative acceptance, inadvertence, or critical distance? What should we go for tonight on the show? Should we do a bit of critical distance, or should we do negative acceptance? I have no idea what these questions are about. This is a communications PhD, and here we are. They're studying the media. We are the media. You are the audience, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe this show would have been more successful if we had gone for more passive notion or inadvertence. Or maybe there wasn't enough critical distance between us and the audience. I don't know. Maybe I should have studied a degree in media and we would have had a much more successful show on a Saturday night. I don't know. Semiology uses a microscopic view of texts to construct them, deconstruct them, expand them, or shorten them. I don't know to that question either. So there's a good phone-in topic as well. Please give me a call on 0208 70 25 58. Do you think, as a member of the audience, you are capable of passive notion, negative acceptance, inadvertence, or critical distance? Take your pick. What would you prefer to listen to on the radio on a Saturday night? I tell you what I would prefer to listen to. I'd rather than all this academic crap, I want to talk to Richard Kasma in the United States, and we're going to do that in just a second here on Love Sport.
Nobody could silence a porn star better than me. That I could tell you. Love Sport.
I work for aspokesmansaid.com. We can help you save money on your home insurance. All you need to do is visit aspokesmansaid.com and find out if we can find you a better deal.
The greatest tournament the world has ever seen is upon us. The Football World Cup. And Love Sport is your England fan station. We've got every England game covered. All the gossip, all the controversies, all the celebrations, and all the emotion. Uniting all English football fans as one across the entire World Cup, from the beginning to the very end. The Love Sport Fans Show with Aaron Paul.
From Russia with Love Sport. Tonight
from 6 p.m. Once every 4 years, the football fans of England unite, providing we qualify. And Love Sport will stand with every England fan at every game, at every moment. From the first goal to the eventual penalty shootout heartbreak. Love Sport, your England fan station.
Продюсер вашего шоу – прекрасная женщина. И, честно говоря, самое лучшее, что касается вашего шоу. Kevin.
Love Sport, your England fan station.
It is Love Sport Radio. It's 10 minutes past midnight. Time to go to the United States now. And let's hope that we can engage our media audience with passive notion, critical distance, inadvertence, or negative acceptance, whatever the hell that means. But Richard Kasma is with us. And look, Donald Trump has had quite a week of it. We've had the First Lady wearing the I Don't Care jacket on the way to a child detention centre. But the President did have to finally relent, didn't he, on his policy of separating children from their parents, and which, of course, was part of their approach of going hard on migration. But before we talk about this, I just want to play this, because I think this says everything about Donald Trump. This was him talking about their approach to migration this week.
The dilemma is that if you're weak, which some people would like you to be, if you're really, really pathetically weak, the country's going to be overrun with millions of people. And if you're strong, then you don't have any heart. That's a tough dilemma. Perhaps I'd rather be strong, but that's a tough dilemma.
Yeah, so it's not just a question of being weak. It's a question of whether you are really, really pathetically weak. I mean, I don't know where this man gets... I mean, it's just... It's like... There's no sense of balance in this man, is there, whatsoever. It's all to do with his strength, and the last thing he wants to be seen is being weak. It's all about him.
You know, if I didn't already live on the edge of the world here in the United States, I would leave this country. But that's, you know, it is what it is.
How did it come to this then? This whole approach on migration? Because when did this? First of all, it all started, didn't it, around April? I think this sort of slipped in under the radar. This idea of separating kids out, didn't it?
Well, there's always been an immigration issue. You know, a set policy. Every president that takes office has a different view of it. Actually, the immigration share, and this is including undocumented immigrants, in the U.S. population is only 13.5%. Now, that's high by recent standards, but it's lower than what it was in the 19th century. Israel, for comparison, they have 22.6%, Australia 27.7%. So the immigrant population here in the United States is vital. And when you look at the unemployment figures, I think our unemployment rate is now 3.8%. Now, if the premise is that the immigrants are coming in here, the illegals are coming in here and taking American jobs, why are there so few jobs out there? Now, in order for the 3.8% to be recorded, those are legitimate Americans who are working, who have Social Security and income tax taken out. So that's how that is tracked. So the whole premise of these illegals coming in here taking jobs is totally bogus. Now, to get back to your question, what's happening is that Trump is holding these asylum seekers hostage. He wants to get full funding for the wall, which the Republican House and Senate will not approve because they know it's a pie in the sky. They're not going to give him the money. So what he's done is he's put this zero policy in effect. So
zero tolerance.
That's coming here illegally, they immediately separate the child from the parent. But these are not Mexicans by any stretch. What these people are is they're coming here from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. These are people that are seeking political asylum to save their lives. They're escaping gang violence, poverty, sex trafficking, and drug cartels. Yeah. And most of these people that are coming here, they've already lost a parent, a child, a brother, a sister, you name it, due to the violence. And again, they're not coming here to do anything to take away from Americans. They're coming here to save their lives.
Yeah.
And these are low-hanging fruit to Trump, and he's doing this separation policy. And even more bizarre and even more heinous is that the children are not allowed to see their parents. The parents are in separate facilities. The children are being flown all over this country in undisclosed locations.
So, I mean, we seem to be getting mixed reports on this, with some people saying, oh, this isn't true at all. They're only separated for a short time and, and it's all blown out of all proportion. Who do we believe?
That's totally bogus. You're getting that from the right-wing media and also from the Trump administration. There are protests going on as we speak. There's a major one down in Florida at one of the detention facilities. There's protests down in Texas, and you're going to see a growing trend throughout the summer months, unless this thing is resolved, of people taking to the streets demanding to know where these children are. I mean, some as young as 9 months. They're put in, the younger ones are put in, I think they're called tender age facilities. But there's also a no-contact policy with the caregivers in these facilities. They're not even allowed to pick up a child and to comfort the child that hasn't seen their parents in 24, 48 hours. There's also the executive order that Trump signed was nothing more than a dog and pony show. The executive order is going to be ruled on by a judge in California. If that judge goes in Trump's favor to, again, keep separating these children, they will be separated indefinitely. But now what the executive rule does is that everybody's still detained, but they're detained as a family unit. And it's just bizarre, because these people, the last thing these people need is to be harassed and to be treated as criminals when they're seeking political asylum, Phil.
Well, Donald Trump says in a tweet, we must maintain a strong southern border. We cannot allow our country to be overrun by illegal immigrants as the Democrats tell their phony stories of sadness and grief, hoping it will help them in the elections. Obama and others had the same pictures and did nothing at all about it. I mean, he is using it all as a political weapon, that's for sure, isn't he? And then another one. 80% of
everything to him is a political weapon, Phil. Yeah. So, and he has. I have never in my lifetime seen an elected official lie as much as he does to the American public. It is, and the things are fact-checked in real time. That's the bizarre thing. And he just continues to lie, and yet his poll numbers keep rising, Phil.
Yeah, that's the disturbing thing, isn't it? Another tweet from him, 80% of Mexico's exports come to the United States. They totally rely on us, which is fine with me. They do have, though, very strong immigration laws. The U.S. has pathetically weak, again, that word, pathetically weak and ineffective immigration laws that the Democrats refuse to help us fix. We'll speak to Mexico. But, I mean, it's interesting that there's no discussion about the root cause of any of this. So strikes me that if there's a big drug problem in Mexico and Central America and all these drug lords which are making life so difficult for people that they have to leave, how are these drug lords making their money? Where are they selling these drugs to? Any ideas? I suspect it might be. It might be a country to the north where all the money is. Do you reckon?
You're exactly right. The United States and any place else that will take this stuff. You know, he keeps mentioning this El Salvadorian criminal gang, MS-13, which has taken a real foothold here in the United States. He's assuming, or he's putting on this premise that these young toddlers are actually MS-13 recruits. Now, MS-13 started in the United States in Los Angeles in the 1980s. They were started by El Salvadorian immigrants that came here, and like a lot of gangs, the Bloods and the Crips and all these people, they take off because they can't get jobs and the discrimination and whatever the violent youth, why they tend to go and follow gangs. But that's what they're saying, is that the taking away of these young children is in the interest of national security, because a 9-month-old is carrying an AK-47 and selling drugs on the streets. I mean, it's just so bizarre. It's sickening, Phil.
Wasn't there a case though there was a lot of unaccompanied children? I mean, in the last government during Obama, there was a case
exactly.
So, I mean, I'm not sure. How does that work? If you've got young, unaccompanied children, that's not so great either, is it? But, I mean, that's the choice of the parents.
Well, that's the thing, is what the parents are doing. And I remember you and I had talked about this a couple of years ago in another of your incarnations. And what was happening is we saw this influx of unaccompanied children. What the parents were doing is the parents were sending these children unaccompanied because they felt that it was easier for them to get into the system here in the United States and be protected if they were not accompanied by an adult. So we had this whole influx of kids, and they got into the system. Who knows what happened to them, but hopefully they're all right. But now we're seeing a similar but yet a different set of circumstances where, again, these people are seeking political asylum. And this journey that they're taking is one of the most arduous journeys in the world. People do not... I mean, you see people leaving Iraq and Iran and going to Turkey and in places like that. That's nothing compared to what these people have to go through, and a lot of them don't make it. They hook up with coyotes who rape the women, sell them in the sex trade, murder them. So this is a very arduous journey that these people have to take to save their children, Phil.
So what's the answer then? Is there an answer, or do you just have to take a more humane approach and say, well, if they made it this far, it's almost our duty to look after them and give them a new opportunity? But then,
the answer is, what's happened is that, and the reason they're immediately detained and separated is that it's considered a federal offense, or at least the Trump administration considers coming into the country illegally is a federal offense, and therefore children whose parents are committed a federal offense are automatically separated. If they change it to a civil offense, and then with this thing called catch and release. So you tell the parents, ask the parents why you're here. Here for political asylum? Okay, here's what you're going to do. We're going to process you when we have time, so go about your business, and then report at this date, at this time and place. And if they don't turn up, then they go through a process of deporting them. Now, there's too few judges in these areas where the border crossings are to process these applicants, and that's the issue. It's not putting them in private prisons for children. It's processing the system, Phil. I mean, it's just, again, name another country where political asylum is well, actually, Australia.
Australia springs to mind.
But
yeah.
I mean, this is part of the growing world nationalism that we're seeing, and Trump has been a nationalist all his life. So I don't know. It's just it's not a good day or a good time to be an American. I'm certainly disgusted at the way this government, the Trump government, has accorded itself. It's just bizarre, and the whole world's watching, Phil.
Yeah, the whole world is watching. $25 billion a year is now being allocated to border security in the United States. This new bill isn't going to ban this separation; it's just going to limit it. So it's still going to go on to an extent. So the world is going to keep on watching. Hey, it's been great talking to you these last few months, and we'll have to get another incarnation, as you call it. Maybe we'll get our podcast back again. Maybe we should start doing
All right.
that. Yeah, but
thank you so much for the opportunity, Phil. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's been great having you on. Richard Kazma in the United States. We'll catch up with you again soon, hopefully. Well, not on this radio station, but somewhere else. And we'll stay in touch. Look, we've got our house needs a house sitter at Christmas again this year. We need to talk to you about that, but possibly not on the radio. Richard Kazma on Love Sport Radio. It's 23 after midnight.
So many people are now overweight. I say life is like a box of chocolates. It doesn't last long if you're fat.
Call us on 0208 70 20 558. And don't worry, we won't harvest your data. Love Sport. So you want fuller, thicker, healthier looking hair in just 2 months? With no side effects? The Recede Hair Loss range contains high concentrations of key botanical extracts used internationally to treat DHT, the main cause of hair loss in men. Studies independently carried out by Aspen Clinical Research showed amazing results in just 8 weeks, with more than 80% of participants agreeing that their hair had improved volume, body and general condition. 91% said they'd happily buy the Recede serum and shampoo. For more info, check out recedehair.com and get 25% off with Lloyd's Pharmacy Online, click and collect, or have it delivered.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy. I found a spokesman said was so easy to follow and it saved me £484 on my energy, and I would recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com, getting real people, real savings. Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers to find out if you can save money. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply for quick reply affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio. A great station for a great city.
Слава богу, что мы напротив клиники сексуального здоровья. Это место полно странных мужчин, like Kevin O'Sullivan.
Your England fan station. Love Sport. Love Sport.
Well, what is the worst thing that could happen at the World Cup? It's not obviously England crashing out in the first round. We sort of sort of open to that idea. Although I think we're going to do quite well. You know, it's been encouraging, hasn't it? We'll see how they play later on today. But that's not the worst thing that can happen at the World Cup. It's not violence on the streets as England's fans attack the hosts and vice versa. You sort of expect that, don't you, really? Particularly when it's in Russia. No, it's worse than that. How could this happen? A beer shortage during the World Cup. How can that happen? There is apparently a shortage of CO2, potentially endangering a much-needed boost to beer sales during the World Cup tournament. It's hitting suppliers, not just in Russia, but here in the UK as well. This is a tragedy. Can you imagine if we get to the quarterfinals or even the semi-finals and you go to the pub and they're going, we ran out of beer because of a CO2 shortage? The British Compressed Gases Association, haven't heard from them for a long time. They represent the interests of the UK industrial gases sector. They said they're aware of the shortage of CO2, which is affecting a range of application areas. Whatever that. When is it? Between that and then this communications degree, when was it that we all stopped talking normally? So there we are. This shortage of CO2 is affecting a range of application areas. So we could have a beer shortfall because of a shortage of CO2, which is affecting a range of application areas. What the is that about? But anyway, it is a problem. Hey, talking about booze, though, I love this. Waitrose is launching a range of wines in a can from tomorrow, from Monday. They announced on Friday. The supermarket says they're going to cash in on an American-led trend in time for the festive season. Oh, the festival season, because for the festive season, they're barely for that, starting on Monday. So 250 millilitres in a can, which is like a large glass that you get in a restaurant. So that's good. Apparently it's in demand, in response to demand from customers for more eco-friendly packaging. I'm not quite sure a can is particularly eco-friendly, but I do... they've apparently had an increase in the small bottles. I've been doing that because I'm the only one who drinks in my family. Well, the kids are 9 or 10. It's against the law, I think. So it's just me, and my wife doesn't drink too much. She just watches me. It's a spectator sport. And so I just drink the small bottles because I don't want to open a whole bottle of wine and then, have to finish it all. Well, sometimes I'm more than capable of that, but generally not if I just want to have a wine with a meal or whatever. So I get these small bottles like you get on airlines. So bottle in a can, wine in a can sounds like a splendid idea to me. Now let's go back to our competition. We're going to give you more to go on. We're going to give you a slightly longer version of each of the songs. And then very shortly we'll give you the answer as well. All these songs relate to something that's been in the news over the last 7 days. Since we were last on air, what are the songs and what is the event that they all relate to? Here we go.
We've got to do something, to save the children.
Well, that makes it somewhat easier, doesn't it? If you have any ideas, what are the songs? Give me a call, 0208 70 20 558 or at Love Sport Radio. And what is the news event that they all relate to? I think we're giving it away now, haven't we? Harriet, you've got it, haven't you? Have you figured it out?
I think I've got it, actually.
Yeah.
I can't tell you every song and every artist.
Right.
I think I know about maybe 2 or 3 of them.
Well, the first one you'd be able to get, wouldn't you? Can't even remember what the first one.
I think I need to hear it one more time, actually.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's do it one more time then. Let's make it easier for everyone. Okay, let's play it one more time.
Okay.
We've got to do something, to save the children.
easy now, isn't it? Which songs did you get then, Harry? Which ones did you figure out?
Okay, so the first one is Borderline.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously,
Yeah.
by the lyrics there. But I'm not sure who that's by. I'm thinking
Madonna.
Yes,
Madonna. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got that written down. Okay, so Madonna, cool. Second one, Save the Children, but I can't tell you.
Classic song from Gil Scott-Heron, but possibly before your time, but only by a few decades, I suspect. Yep.
And the third one, then, Stay Together. I don't...
Tina Turner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was going to maybe say Whitney or someone.
And last one?
Baby something. I do know the song.
All right, but it's obvious what they all relate to. But look, we will keep you in suspense. If
Yeah,
you're listening and you
it
haven't
is.
figured it out yet, it's fairly obvious. But we'll take a quick break and we'll tell you the answer in just a second. But if you do want to tell us, if you want to try and beat us to it, 0208 70 20 558 is our phone number, or at Love Sport Radio if you want to tweet us. But we'll give you the answer straight after these.
British summertime, great times. Light the barbecue with Hillary's old emails.
Love Sport Breakfast with Ian Stone.
I've got World Cup fever, Doctor. What's the cure? Watch England for half an hour, you'll be absolutely fine. That will cure you
Sure is,
of
yes.
World Cup fever. Here's a video of the last Euros where we played Iceland. Take that twice a day. Kim Jong-un has made a statement. He said it was not easy to get here. Was it a replacement bus service? There were obstacles, but we overcame them to be here. You can't imagine him getting over any obstacle, can you, Kim Jong-un?
Not really, no.
He's really put on a lot of weight.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
they'll just knock the obstacle down for him, wouldn't
They
they? That's
would.
the thing. Yeah, they'll just flatten it and say, go on.
hear about his dad apparently did 8 holes in one on a round of golf, got a 38.
I can believe it. Well, if all he had to do was, I bet he didn't even tee off himself. Somebody did it for him.
He had a...
And then someone caught it and put it in the hole.
It's amazing he got a 2 sometimes, though, isn't it, really? The person who didn't catch it was moved to
He
some...
fumbled it and then he had to go and pick the ball up, so that counted as 2.
Weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, well, we had Terence Trent D'Arby was the last one. Sign your name, because President Trump signed his name in big letters with his very small hands on an executive order to save the children, which was the Gil Scott-Heron song in there, on the borderline. Madonna, the borderline. But letting them stay together with their parents, hence the Tina Turner song, Let's Stay Together. There we are. He had no choice, of course, because we saw that footage of children sitting in cages and the audio of the kids wailing from their parents in this policy that was introduced in April that we've just been talking about with Richard Kasma. So that is the answer. Madonna, Borderline, Gil Scott-Heron, Save the Children, Tina Turner, Let's Stay Together, Terence Trent D'Arby, Sign Your Name, put them all together, and they all relate to that story about Donald Trump and the children being separated from their parents. Look, it's going to be a warm week this week. It's going to get over 30 degrees. Heat wave on the way, says the Super Soaraway Sun today. Britain is set to be hotter than southern Spain next week as the heat wave spreads across the country. It just gets anything over 21. We start talking about a heat wave, don't we, in this country? Look, 30 degrees in Sydney. It was just starting to get warm. People be taking their jumpers off at 30 degrees. Temperature expected to peak at 30 degrees on Wednesday, higher than the resorts of Marbella and Gibraltar. There's the thing. What is going to happen with Gibraltar with Brexit? We spent all this time talking about the Northern Ireland border. What about the Gibraltar border? Presumably, if we have a hard Brexit, that's going to be closed off. And the only way you'll be able to get in and out is by plane from London, if you can fly over the European airspace. Anyway, I digress. There I was talking about that's it. That is me to a T, isn't it? I start talking about the weather, I end up talking about Brexit. Look, this has got to be the least interesting piece of investigative journalism in the papers today or yesterday. The Daily Mail for Saturday. Highway robbery. We knew petrol was more expensive at motorway service stations, but we reveal everything else costs more too. Did anyone not expect that when you go to a service station and buy something like a bag of crisps, it costs more in a service station than it does in a supermarket? Did anyone not know that? There's a 2-page spread here showing the extent of it. Yes, if you buy a Whisper bar in the high street, it costs 79p. In a service station, it costs 99p. Harry Wallop is the guy who did... They made this name up, haven't they? No one's really called Harry Wallop. Harry Wallop's done this investigative bit of reporting in the Daily Mail today. Everything costs more when you go to a service station. Petrol costs more, but so does milk. Who'd have thought that? Packet of crisps, packet of Tyrrell's salt and vinegar crisps, £1 in the high street, £1.29 in the service station. This comes from the land of absolutely no surprises whatsoever. Hashtag no kidding. Post-it notes. Why would you buy a post-it note at a service station? Have you ever, when you're on a long journey, I really need some post-it notes before I get to Bristol. But if you do, it costs more in a service station. So if better off going to the high street. I do not get this. Duct tape. What do you need duct tape from a service station for? Well, you're paying through the nose if you are. Well done, Harry Wallop. That's of no useful use whatsoever. Look, we're going to go to Australia in just a second, find out what's happening there. Well, not just Australia. We're also going to go to New Zealand and learn about the Prime Minister over there who's gone and get herself pregnant. From her husband, I think, so there's nothing too alarming about that. We're going to talk to Paul Wallbank. That's next here on Love Sport Radio.
I listened to 5 Live the other day and I instantaneously wanted to start the nuclear war.
Love Sport, your England fan station.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a Spokesman set, which was very easy to use for an old git like myself, and the £300 savings enabled me to take my granddaughter to Pontins on holiday.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Look, 50% off bed sheets and these towels.
Why is everything floral?
Because she likes flowers.
Who?
Mum, she's staying with us until her extension's built.
Are you joking?
I told you last week.
You didn't.
With up to 70% off big brands, 20 restaurants and a 9-screen cinema, you're guaranteed to get more than you bargained for at London Designer Outlet. Savings for all the family? Hello LDO. Find us in Wembley Park. See website for details. Savings on RRP. It's only for 3 months.
You could make the main dealer's day by paying over the odds. Or you could go to Big Motoring World and save a fortune on up to 2,000 pre-owned BMWs, Mercedes, Audis and VWs in stock. Then with the money you saved, put a smile on your face with a cheeky weekend away for 2. Give yourself a break at Big Motoring World, just minutes from the M25. See bigmotoringworld.co.uk.
Russia 1, Love Sport 0. Russia always wins.
Love Sport, supporting England at the World Cup.
Well, it's 20 minutes away from midnight, 20 minutes away from the end of my last show on Love Sport Radio. Well, unless, I might get a phone call saying, can you come in on Monday and do a fill-in? But apart from that, the regular show, this is the last one. So, that means Paul Wallbank in Australia is our last guest on the show as well. And what an honour that is for you, Paul Wallbank.
I'm honoured and humbled, Phil.
You're basically here to close the whole thing down for us.
Well, let's see if we can get out with a bang with TV sets in the swimming pool and the whole show.
Well, do you know what? I've got an idea. There is a question about how we're going to finish off. I've got a story which I've been holding off, so that's going to keep people excited for the next 20 minutes. How are we going to finish it all off? But I've got a bit of a theory, a bit of work in progress on that. But look, let's talk about what's happening in Australia and also New Zealand. So Jacinda Ardern is the New Zealand Prime Minister. Everyone obviously knows that. She's very famous. She's just had a baby, which...
Yes.
doesn't sound like it should be in the news, but when you're used to politicians who are in their 60s and 70s, and she's 38, it's very nice to be reminded that actually young women can hold a position of power in some parts of the world. Admittedly, not particularly important parts of the world, but it's a start for sisterhood, isn't it?
Well, you think it's a start, but I saw an interesting stat over the week that the last female leader to have a baby in office was Benazir Bhutto back in 1980s, was it? The early 90s? It was something like 38 years.
So are they the only two? I'm just, because I was wondering about that. We asked the question earlier on, so you just answered it, whether Jacinda was the only one who's ever had a baby while in office. But I wonder if they're just those two, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what I understand. And, of course, that was, 30-odd years ago. So that really shows you that things haven't really progressed slowly. As we expected.
Yeah, well, at least it's a step in the right direction. So is that big news over there, then?
Oh, it certainly is, and it's an interesting contrast to Australia where, as you say, it's a bunch of
middle-aged men.
Old white men in their 50s and 60s pontificating, and you can't help but think if an Australian female politician had a baby in office, the reaction would be very, very different. It very much seems these days that Australia's 10, 15 years behind New Zealand on these matters.
Well, you've had one woman Prime Minister. She wasn't particularly well welcomed, was she, by many people in the media and by other politicians, and she was declared barren. Was the term that was used, I think. So precisely because she didn't have any children.
That's right, and I think the misogyny against Julia Gillard is probably one of the darker chapters in Australian modern history, and certainly you couldn't see somebody like Jacinda Ardern becoming Prime Minister here, let alone having a child while in office. I think the collective media and political classes here in Australia would probably lose their tiny little minds over that.
Yeah, it's a clear contrast, isn't it, between the two countries? Absolutely. I've always thought that New Zealand is, on lots of ways, in ecology as well, it's quite a progressive country, and Australia's still burning coal as fast as they can get it out of the ground.
Well, here coal is the future. That's what some of our prominent politicians believe.
Yeah. Now look, there's a billboard on the main road on the approach to Melbourne Airport that says, big black type on a white background, "Why can't Aboriginal people just get over the past?" Which sounds a tad racist, but it was actually, ironically, trying to fight racism, wasn't it? But it could still fall foul of advertising rules, even though it was trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, well, the publication I work for, Mumbrella, we're a media and marketing website, and we've been covering this story quite closely, and the advertising agency that put it up was quite proud of the campaign, and remains quite proud of the campaign. And they did it with one of the Aboriginal, one of the Indigenous community bodies in Victoria, that's the state which Melbourne's in, and they'd worked with them to put this campaign where people asked uncomfortable questions about Indigenous rights and the Indigenous community. So this was a series of television, out of home, billboards, that sort of thing, and magazine ads. And so they had a whole series of these. And the billboards in Australia, the Outdoor Media Association has a system where if you're a little bit worried about whether it's going to be acceptable or not, you can put the billboard before them, and they'll say yes, this will comply with the regulations and the guidelines, or no, it won't. The problem is when you do that, you are actually bound once the association rules and says yes, this is acceptable or it's not. They say it's not. You can't run the campaign, and this unfortunately happened. That one of the billboard companies was a little bit worried about it, so they submitted the campaigns in, and it came back that I think it was 3 of the billboards may breach Australian advertising rules. So as a consequence, they couldn't run them, and it's one of these unforeseen effects of a regulation, because the intention's good, and it's been done with the support of the Indigenous community. In fact, it's been designed by them. But
I wonder whether that thinking is a little bit misplaced. Not in terms of the regulator, but in terms of the people devising the campaign. Because obviously the idea was, let's have a provocative headline. We're like, why can't Aboriginal people get over the past? And then presumably the answer is all about their history and tradition and why it's important to them. But it's like newspaper headlines, isn't it? People see the Daily Express. They can't read more than the first few sentences because their power of concentration is not that strong, and so all they do is they remember the headline, and that just reinforces views. And so there is that danger, isn't it, that people would look at it and go, why can't Aboriginal Aboriginal people get over the past. Quite right, and then it just reinforces the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. So maybe the billboard regulators, the outdoor regulators, have got a point.
I think there is truth there, and unfortunately, and this again goes back to what we were talking about with Jacinta Ardern and the Australian media, is that unfortunately there is that great big streak of that sort of thinking within Australian media and politics and the general community at large. So in some respects it may even be reinforcing those negative attitudes that it was hoping to dispel a bit of. So, and there is always a danger with those sort of campaigns that that's what it's going to do.
Yeah. All right, so we've done sexism, we've done racism. Let's move on to homophobia then, because it is an Australian segment. So there's a picture of two female rugby league players kissing that seems to have upset some people. I mean, they are partners, aren't they?
They are, and yeah, they. So this is what we call the state of origin, which is New South Wales versus Queensland in rugby league, not rugby union, rugby league. We had the rugby union last night, which Australia lost, and. So it's a state versus state thing that traditionally it's been a big media event at this time of year for the blokes. However, they had their first female state of origin match on Wednesday night, I think it was, just around the corner from me. And yeah, at the end of the game, one of the Queensland and one of the New South Wales players had a great big passionate kiss at the end of the game. And yeah, they're partners. And yeah, this has caused outrage in some sections of the rugby league community, which in some respects is probably not the most progressive group in Australia. So,
no. Well, I mean, amongst the male rugby league players, how many have come out as gay? I would be surprised if any have.
One came out as gay about 20 years ago, and he's one of the few Australian professional sports people that have done that, and it was a pretty brave move by Ian Roberts as well. But also he's a big bloke. You don't want to argue with him.
Right, that helps, doesn't it? So
it certainly does. But yeah, the blokes, quite a few of them certainly lost it over these two players having a kiss at the end of the game, and yeah, it's an interesting quirk, and credit to the National Rugby League, the organisation that oversees all of this, is that they put out on Twitter when they were getting a lot of critics, said, "Oh well, it's 2018, welcome." So yeah, they didn't take a step backwards on supporting these two, which was I thought was a very encouraging view.
And crocodiles heading south, and the killer jellyfish.
Yeah.
I'm just practicing. Do you like that? I'm practicing being a Sun headline writer. Killer jellyfish head south. But they're getting closer to Brisbane, aren't they? I mean, they're still a little way off Brisbane, but they were tucked away up north, where where men are used to these things. They're used to wrestling crocodiles. It's just a normal part of the day. But now they're starting to head south, and people are getting worried about it.
They are, and this is global warming in action. That because the waters are getting warmer along the coast of Queensland, yeah, the crocodiles and the killer jellyfish, the Akunji, are all moving south. So they're about 200 kilometres now north of Brisbane. But I personally, if I was in Brisbane, that'd be close enough for me. I'd have to say. The crocodiles in particular, anyone who's been to northern Queensland would have seen those signs that say "Do not swim in these waters" because there are crocodiles, and they are not joking, and yeah, these things will take a big bite out of you. And of course, at the other end of the spectrum, you've got these tiny little jellyfish the size of your fingernail that can kill a man stone dead in a few minutes.
Yeah, so you're doing selling the Australian tourism dream like a trooper there. So Australia Group C, you got 1-1 against Denmark. Actually played pretty well. Might be enough to get through in the World Cup. Who knows? I mean,
yeah. Well, they did. They managed to scrape through last World Cup on a similar sort of pattern. They lost their first game, drew the second game, and then did enough to get through their group. So yeah, it's possible. You didn't, being in the same group as France and Denmark, you really didn't think that they'd qualify. But well,
it looks like you will. I mean, Denmark's got to lose against France on Tuesday, so they stay on 4 points. Well, that's obviously going to happen. And Australia's got to win against Peru on Tuesday, which is also very possible, because then you'd be on 4 points too. So then you'd have two on 4 points, and it would be the goal difference between Denmark and Australia. Well, Denmark's only got one goal difference so far. So, if you got a 2-0 win against Peru, I'd say you're through. So that's eminently possible, isn't it?
It certainly is, and we're watching England as well. I've got to say, in the office draw, I got Panama as my team in the sweep, so I'm gleefully waiting for Panama to do the inevitable England shock loss in the World Cup, which will, with my Brit colleagues at work, will be a very, very enjoyable day.
Well, I think we might get through to the quarterfinals. That's what I'm betting.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. There we are. Look, there we are. I've been talking sport on Love Sport. People will be... it's too late now. Maybe if I'd started earlier, I could have got one of the big gigs talking sport. But that's about as far as I can go. Look, thank you for being part of the show. It's been great. And look, radio stations come and go here. It's just... like in Australia, nothing changes in the radio landscape. Here, they come and go. So I'll probably, pop up somewhere else sometime soon.
Yeah, you probably will. With that wonderful Aussie accent of yours.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, mate. Well, great talking to you, mate. We'll see you again soon. Paul Wallbank in Australia.
See you later, Cobber.
See you later. There we are. It's 8 minutes away from us. Maybe I should just do the last 8 minutes of the show in an Australian accent. 8 minutes away from midnight here, or even 1 o'clock in the morning here on Love Sport Radio. Stay with us.
Oh yes, soccer is coming home in 2026 as the USA, Canada, and some little place called Mexico will host the World Cup. It's going to be the best World Cup ever. Apart from all the games in Mexico, they'll be very bad.
Love Sport.
I work for a spokesmansaid.com. We can help you save money on your home insurance. All you need to do is visit a spokesmansaid.com and find out if we can find you a better deal.
Are you being fobbed off by a company? Are they letting you down? And are your complaints falling on deaf ears? We can help you out. Come to a spokesmansaid.com and we will give you a voice and a platform to raise your complaints. As recommended in the Daily Telegraph, a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Reminder to all Englishmen attending the Russian World Cup. Males cannot touch males in Russia.
Your England fan station. Love Sport.
Well, I'm glad to see Japan is taking a very tough line against workers taking advantage of their employers. This is very good to see. If you're an employer, take note of this. A 64-year-old civil servant, he works for the Waterworks Bureau in Kobe, was seen leaving his desk 3 minutes early for lunch before the designated lunch break. And he did it 26 times over a 7-month period, always 3 minutes early. That is over an hour of extra lunch break he managed to get over 7 minutes. And it being Japan, you know how they dealt with this? Rather than just pulling him aside and saying, you've been going to lunch a bit early, they reprimanded him, not just with a stern letter or a word from the boss. No, the Bureau had a televised news conference in which the bosses described the man's conduct as deeply regrettable, and they bowed in an apology. It's a travesty, isn't it? And yet, there was a government white paper a couple of years ago that declared 1 in 5 Japanese workers were at risk of death from overwork. But not this man. He went for lunch 3 minutes early. What would happen, just on the radio, for example? What would happen if I just walked out 3 minutes early? I mean, what would you do? I mean, I could just do that. I could say, I'm supposed to go on till midnight, but no, I've had enough. I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk out early, and what would you do? You'd be left, wouldn't you? You'd have nothing to do except play the ads early, maybe. You could do that, or you could play some music, but, I'll come back. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay to the end. But in Japan, I would be reprimanded for that sort of behaviour, wouldn't I? I would be in real trouble. Look, that's almost it. We are almost at the end of our little journey here on Love Sport Radio. It's been fun for, I'm not sure, when did we start? In March, April time? I don't know, months ago anyway. We've had a fun journey. March it was it? How time flies. What are we in now? June. So we gave it 3 months. We gave it our best shot. And, I hope you've enjoyed the journey. Look, we'll take a break and we'll come back and say our goodbyes then. It's Love Sport.
I'm looking at the clock on the wall, and I can't tell the time, but apparently it's nearly time for the news.
Love Sport. Love Sport. So you want fuller, thicker, healthier-looking hair in just 2 months? With no side effects, the Recede Hair Loss range contains high concentrations of key botanical extracts used internationally to treat DHT, the main cause of hair loss in men. Studies independently carried out by Aspen Clinical Research showed amazing results in just 8 weeks, with more than 80% of participants agreeing that their hair had improved volume, body, and general condition. 91% said they'd happily buy the Recede serum and shampoo. For more info, check out recedehair.com and get 25% off with Lloyd's Pharmacy Online, click and collect, or have it delivered.
You love your sport, but it can be a pain organising it. Endless phone calls, emails and text messages, organising players and collecting money can all be a headache. What you need is Teamer.net, the free sports app that'll help you manage your team's events, communicate effectively as a team, and now you can collect money simply and securely via Teamer payments. Relied upon by 2 million members, Teamer is available for free on desktop, Android and iPhone.
Hello, I'm Michael Parkinson. The Lord's Taverners is the UK's leading youth cricket and disability sports charity, and now the official charity partner of Love Sport Radio. The charity's mission is to enhance the lives of disadvantaged and disabled young people through sport. Last year, the Lord's Taverners donated over £4 million to help young people of all backgrounds and abilities to get involved with sport. To find out more, to see how you can get involved, visit lordstaverners.org.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
All right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
And that is just about it. Do you know what? I do think if it had been called Love Sport Radio rather than Love Sport Radio, I mean, it's just moving the space a little bit, isn't it? Then I would have fitted in very well here, because I could have sat here on a Saturday night, talked about port. But I don't know whether that would sustain itself through the week, a radio station that just talked about port. But there's certainly no one else doing it, is there, anywhere else in the world? And, you know, you could perhaps have you might vary it a little bit, perhaps talk about champagne at certain times of the day, perhaps even boutique beers. But, if it's going to work anywhere in the world, a radio station entirely devoted to alcohol, this is the country to do it in, I think. But look, this station is instead all about sport, and I'm not really a sports broadcaster. So that's why we have to part our ways. It's been fun, though, over the last few months. Proper sports people are back on tomorrow morning. Anthony Wooten from 7 o'clock and you and Thomas from 8. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for being with us over the last few months. I'm Phil Dobbie. I'll see you again somewhere soon. Thanks for listening.
On 558 AM, online, on your smart speaker and on digital radio. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 1.
There we are.
Claim more than 100,000 people
All done.
attended a march in central London